I'm questioning if we are even the right fit to get married.
This is bull. I can't believe that you have the balls to say that.
I have come to New York City this week because I have to work, and I've come alone because I really needed some space to be apart from Edward.
You made the right decision. Thank you for this dress.
What did I not make the right decision for?
I don't know.
Shayla.
We're hoping you did. I'm hoping you made the right decision. That you love him for him, not
What do you think I love him for? Is money?
Sex?
That's what she said.
Well, that's number 2 on the priority.
There you go.
Slipping into this like miserable, depressed person because he's afraid of me. He's afraid of messing up. And probably because I'm not happy. So he's saying, okay, well, she's not happy. I'm not going to do that.
Couple. It's not just her. It's me too, you know? So I need more. I demand more because I know my value. Like, I feel that you are so cold to me. I'm begging for love. And this is not acceptable for me at all.
I feel like we have nothing to talk about. I feel like there's no like stimulation.
This is not the point. This is not the point. I give you exactly what you need.
Marissa says she only needs space. But to Edward, that space feels more like rejection. He left the Dominican Republic expecting a partner, a wedding, and a shared future. Instead, he now feels like a guest inside Marissa's life. He is expected to impress her family. He is expected to adjust to her home. He is expected to fit into her social world. And whenever he struggles, Marissa seems to treat that struggle like another reason to doubt him. But everything changes when Edward finally stops asking for approval. He looks Marissa in the eye and says he is tired of begging for love. Then he delivers the strongest statement he has made all season. He knows his value. That line matters because Edward has spent most of this relationship trying harder whenever Marissa pulled away. When she criticized him, he tried to improve. When she became distant, he moved closer. When her family questioned him, he tried to prove himself. But what happens when trying harder never produces more respect? What happens when one partner controls the home, money, social environment, and wedding timeline? And what happens when the other partner realizes affection has become something he must earn? That is why this New York confrontation is not about one unanswered text. It is not even mainly about Marissa wanting space. This argument exposes a much deeper question. Does Marissa truly want Edward? Or does she want a completely different man who happens to look like Edward? Marissa admits she is only 75% certain about marrying him. That is not normal nervousness about flowers, guests, or wedding expenses. She is questioning whether Edward is the correct person. Yet she continues planning the ceremony. She attends her dress fitting. She discusses wedding arrangements. She moves forward publicly while privately wondering whether the relationship should continue. That contradiction is impossible to ignore. Marissa may honestly feel overwhelmed. The relationship may feel very different in America. Vacation chemistry does not always survive work schedules, family pressure, household responsibilities, and financial stress. But there is another possibility. Maybe Marissa loved Edward most when he represented an escape. In Punta Cana, he was relaxed, spontaneous, charming, and completely different from her structured life. Now those same qualities appear to irritate her. The man who once felt refreshing may now feel inconvenient. And that brings us to the uncomfortable center of the storyline. Marissa may not simply dislike Edward's behavior. She may dislike what marrying Edward requires from her. This is no longer a simple cold feet story. It is a relationship where the power balance keeps moving further in Marissa's direction. Edward has finally stopped asking how he can make her happy. Now he wants to know why his happiness never seems equally important. And once someone asks that question, the relationship can never return to normal. Marissa travels to New York and says she needs time away. Needing space is not automatically a red flag. Healthy couples sometimes need a moment to breathe. But space becomes dangerous when it replaces an honest conversation. Edward does not appear to understand why she is leaving. He feels emotionally shut out. She leaves without the affection he expected and barely communicates afterward. While Edward sits with that confusion, Marissa attends her final dress fitting. She appears happier discussing the dress than discussing the man she plans to marry. And her friends immediately sense the problem. They ask whether she is truly sure. Marissa admits she has serious doubts. She even acknowledges that she is often mean to Edward. But almost immediately, she returns to criticizing his independence. That moment reveals something important. Marissa recognizes the damage she causes. She just does not appear ready to change the behavior causing it. And self-awareness without change is not accountability. It is simply knowing you are hurting someone while continuing anyway. Edward eventually travels to New York because he knows something is seriously wrong. Some viewers will see that decision as a boundary violation. Marissa asked for space, and Edward followed her. That concern deserves to be taken seriously. If someone clearly asks for distance, appearing unexpectedly can feel intrusive. But Edward is not chasing an ordinary girlfriend after a minor disagreement. His entire future is connected to this relationship. He relocated to another country. A wedding is approaching. His legal and financial stability may depend heavily on what Marissa decides next. And he can feel her becoming colder without explaining why. From Edward's perspective, his future is being discussed everywhere except with him. That is why he comes to New York. He wants an answer. When they finally sit down, Edward does not begin by attacking her. He tells her he feels ignored. He says she is cold. He says he is begging for affection. That word, begging, reveals how unequal this relationship now feels to him. Edward is not simply asking for more hugs. He is asking for proof that Marissa still wants him. He does not know whether her distance is temporary. He does not know whether the wedding is still real. He does not know whether every mistake brings him closer to being sent home. That uncertainty creates anxiety. And anxiety often creates pursuit. Edward feels rejected, so he asks for reassurance. Marissa experiences that request as pressure, so she withdraws. Edward notices the withdrawal and becomes even more anxious. Then Marissa points to his anxiety as evidence that he is too dependent. The more Edward reaches toward her, the further she moves away. The further she moves away, the harder he tries. That cycle keeps feeding itself. But New York creates a major shift. Edward finally stops explaining what he will do differently. Instead, he explains what he needs from Marissa. He needs affection. He needs consideration. He needs to feel like the relationship includes two equal people. Then he says he knows his value. For Edward, this is not just a dramatic line. It is the beginning of a boundary. Until now, he has spent most of the season trying to pass tests. He must impress Marissa's family. He must behave correctly around her friends. He must prove he is responsible enough. He must prove he is intelligent enough. He must prove he is independent enough. He enters every room knowing someone may already believe he does not belong there. And Marissa often appears more concerned about whether Edward impresses everyone than whether everyone respects Edward. That difference is huge. A supportive partner does not need to defend every bad decision. But a supportive partner should not make someone feel permanently auditioned. Edward should not have to wake up every morning and prove he deserves the relationship again. At some point, the question becomes painfully simple. Does Marissa actually like him? Not his potential. Not the version she remembers from vacation. Not the polished version she hopes he becomes. Does she respect the man standing in front of her right now? Marissa says Edward is not independent enough. There may be some truth inside that concern. Edward entered a household that already had rules, responsibilities, and children. Marissa cannot spend every moment managing his adjustment. Edward needs his own routines. He needs friends. He needs goals beyond keeping Marissa happy. He cannot make her his only source of emotional security. But independence does not appear overnight after immigration. Edward entered Marissa's country, home, family, and social circle. He may have limited work options during the early transition. He may lack transportation, close friends, and familiar support. Marissa controls almost every part of the environment. Then she becomes frustrated that he does not immediately function like an equal inside it. That creates a test Edward may be unable to pass. He is expected to act independent while relying on systems Marissa controls. He is expected to feel confident while being constantly evaluated. He is expected to give her space while receiving almost no emotional security. Edward still has responsibilities. But the imbalance must be recognized before it can ever improve. The biggest warning sign is not Marissa needing space. It is the way she talks about Edward. Low affection can sometimes be repaired. Different communication styles can be understood. Temporary stress can make someone emotionally unavailable. But contempt is much harder to reverse. Contempt begins when someone stops criticizing a specific behavior and starts looking down on the entire person. Marissa has questioned whether Edward can stimulate her intellectually. She has worried about whether he fits into her social environment. She appears concerned that he could embarrass her around certain people. Those concerns suggest she may not simply dislike certain things Edward does. She may dislike what he represents inside her established world. Marissa has a career, a home, children, family connections, and social credibility. Edward arrives with fewer resources and less immediate control. That difference can create resentment on both sides. Marissa may feel she carries most of the practical responsibility. Edward may feel she uses that responsibility to claim emotional authority. The relationship then becomes unequal in two different ways. Marissa becomes the evaluator. Edward becomes the person being evaluated. She decides whether he is mature enough. She decides whether he is interesting enough. She decides whether he fits into the family. She decides how much affection she can offer while remaining unsure about him. But Edward is not applying for a position. He is preparing for a marriage. Marriage does not require identical income or equal life experience. It does require equal human value. Marissa's financial position may give her more practical control. It should not give her permission to define Edward's worth. Their 13-year age difference also matters, but not because age gaps automatically fail. The bigger issue is life stage. Marissa has already built a complicated adult life. She has raised children. She has developed routines. She knows exactly how she likes her home and schedule to operate. Edward is not building a completely new life beside her. He is entering a structure that already exists. That raises one of the biggest questions in this relationship. Does Marissa want a co-author for her next chapter? Or does she want someone who quietly fits into the chapter she already wrote? Edward may believe they are building a shared future. Marissa may expect him to adapt to a future she already designed. That difference can destroy a relationship even when genuine love exists. However, Marissa also deserves a fair analysis. She is allowed to realize the relationship feels different in America. A person who seems exciting during vacation can feel completely different during normal life. Vacation removes most daily pressure. There are no school schedules. There are fewer household responsibilities. There are no difficult conversations about work, parenting, money, or long-term planning. Edward may have represented freedom during Marissa's trip. Now he may feel like another responsibility inside an already demanding life. That does not automatically make her cruel. It may mean reality arrived before she was emotionally prepared. She also faces pressure from her children, parents, friends, and former husband. Her professional world may make her highly sensitive about appearances. She may feel financially responsible for Edward during his transition. Those pressures could create genuine fear and resentment. But resentment must be communicated directly. It cannot be expressed through constant criticism and withheld affection. Marissa's mistake is not questioning the marriage. She has every right to reconsider. Her mistake is allowing Edward to experience those doubts as silent rejection. She says she hates being mean to him. That shows she understands the effect of her behavior. But understanding the damage is not enough. Real accountability requires a different response. Otherwise, I know I am mean becomes another excuse. And that is where the storyline becomes much darker. Marissa may not be trying to destroy Edward's confidence, but the relationship structure is already doing exactly that. Many viewers are strongly defending Edward. A large section of the audience believes Marissa treats him as socially inferior. They feel she cares more about appearances than emotional connection. Some fans believe Edward can never satisfy her because her expectations constantly change. When he seeks closeness, she calls him dependent. When he gives her space, she questions their connection. When he tries to fit into her world, she appears embarrassed. When he asks for respect, she treats him like another source of stress. From that perspective, Edward cannot win. Many viewers also see a clear double standard. Marissa is allowed to ask for space. Edward is criticized for asking for affection. Marissa privately questions the wedding. Edward is expected to remain calm when she finally reveals those doubts. Marissa openly describes everything she dislikes about him. But when Edward explains what hurts him, she immediately becomes defensive. That imbalance is driving much of the public frustration. Some fans feel Edward should leave before the relationship damages his confidence even further. They believe "I know my value" should become a real decision. It cannot remain a powerful sentence followed by another apology. But another section of the audience sees Edward differently. Some viewers believe he underestimates how difficult his arrival has been for Marissa. She is not simply adjusting to a romantic partner. She may feel responsible for helping another adult navigate an unfamiliar country and household. She already has children and an established life. Edward may expect constant emotional attention during moments when Marissa feels overwhelmed. Some viewers also believe his trip to New York crossed a line. From their perspective, Marissa requested space and Edward responded by following her. They believe his need for reassurance may feel emotionally suffocating. That criticism should not be dismissed. Edward may rely too heavily on Marissa's affection as his main measurement of security. He may need to understand that temporary distance does not always mean abandonment. He also needs an identity outside the relationship. He needs friendships. He needs practical independence. He needs goals that do not rise and fall with Marissa's mood. But none of that justifies humiliation. A partner can ask someone to become more independent without making them feel worthless. A partner can request space without becoming emotionally cruel. A partner can express doubts without quietly continuing wedding plans. The strongest debate is not whether Edward is perfect. He clearly has weaknesses. The strongest question is whether Marissa created a relationship where Edward can never appear capable. Think about the structure. She brings him into her environment. She controls most of the resources. She has the stronger support system. Her family and social circle evaluate him. Then his discomfort becomes proof that he is not ready. But how can someone become confident when every reaction is treated like evidence against them? This is why many viewers see the relationship as an endless audition. Marissa appears to be the only person holding the scorecard. There is also an uncomfortable class issue. Edward worked in hospitality and entertainment. Marissa comes from a more established professional background. Different careers do not mean different intelligence. Different incomes do not mean different human value. But Marissa's comments have left viewers questioning whether she connects status with compatibility. Does she assume Edward cannot challenge her intellectually because he lacks certain experiences? Does she believe he cannot fit into her world because of his economic background? Or is she noticing genuine differences in communication, ambition, and lifestyle? Those are completely different possibilities. One reflects social prejudice. The other reflects real incompatibility. The problem is that Marissa communicates her concerns in a way that makes the difference almost impossible to identify. And when someone feels looked down upon, even fair criticism begins sounding like contempt. This relationship may have started with opposites attracting. Marissa is structured and established. Edward appears warmer, more relaxed, and spontaneous. Marissa may have appreciated those qualities during vacation. Edward may have admired her confidence, success, and strong personality. During dating, differences can feel exciting. During cohabitation, those same differences become inconvenient. During wedding planning, they can begin feeling threatening. The quality that once felt refreshing becomes the quality someone wants removed. Marissa may have loved Edward because he was different. Now she appears frustrated because he remains different. That creates a painful trap. Edward believes becoming better will finally earn more love. Marissa keeps discovering new reasons to remain dissatisfied. The more he changes, the more he loses the qualities that originally defined him. The more she criticizes him, the more anxious he becomes. Then his anxiety confirms her belief that he lacks independence. This pattern has appeared repeatedly. Marissa questions his maturity. She worries about his behavior around friends. She raises concerns about intellectual compatibility. She criticizes his independence. She limits affection. She admits doubts about marriage. Then she blames his reaction to her distance for making the relationship worse. That repetition proves the New York confrontation is not an isolated misunderstanding. It is the moment the entire pattern becomes impossible to hide. Edward finally explains the emotional cost. He feels rejected. He feels unwanted. He feels like he is begging. Marissa responds by saying she cannot give affection because their relationship is already tense. That creates another circular problem. She withholds affection because the relationship feels bad. The relationship feels worse because she withholds affection. Edward reacts to the lack of affection. His reaction gives her another reason to withdraw. Each person treats the other person's response like the original problem. Nothing changes because neither person interrupts the cycle. For this relationship to improve, Edward must stop chasing constant reassurance. Marissa must stop using withdrawal as her main response to discomfort. Edward must build practical independence. Marissa must give him room to build it without constant judgment. Edward must respect Marissa's need for breathing room. Marissa must communicate before that breathing room becomes emotional abandonment. Most importantly, both must decide whether respect still exists. Love without respect becomes unstable. Attraction without respect becomes temporary. Marriage without respect becomes a power struggle. The wedding itself is now secondary. The real question is whether Marissa respects Edward enough to build a life beside him, and whether Edward respects himself enough to leave if she does not. Marissa may soften once Edward finally withdraws. That would not be surprising.